Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Good afternoon. Welcome to America's Heroes Group Roundtable with partner National Coalition Homeless Veterans. It's Saturday, December 18th, 2021. December is AIDS Awareness and National Human Rights Month. I am host Cliff Kelley.
That wonderful voice. And I'm his co-host, Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions, the great. A good company for you to look at. Also, we have our partners with us, Kathryn Monet. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans. Wonderful, wonderful person out there doing hard work for us. And we also have Ralph Cooper, the Community and Residential Veteran Services Coordinator, Cloudbreak Houston, LLC, and co-founder of National Coalition for Homeless Veterans. The two of them are helping veterans every day. They don't wait till the holidays and let's give them something, to help them get them through. They are out there every day of the year. So we have to commend them for their work. The discussion today is going to be the family reunification for veterans experiencing homelessness. Hello, Kathryn. Hello, Ralph. How are you doing?
Great.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, good. I always like seeing those smiling faces. The two of you are, it's a good heart that comes from those smiles. So we are really happy to have the two of you here. So, Kathryn, do you want to start out? What about this family reunification for veterans experiencing homelessness? What do we need to know?
Well, so I think the first thing I want to share with you all is that one of the biggest predictors of someone becoming homeless is a prior incident of homelessness. And, we've been on the show and we've talked about shelters, we've talked about affordable housing, but I think one really key component of an exit to housing from homelessness that we haven't talked about yet is reunifying with your family and the people that you love.
Oh, fantastic. What about you, Ralph? Because, you're always on my mind when I leave here after I speak to you for days, because I'm thinking about all the things that you make, your comments you make about how important it is for us to keep our veterans in our minds all the time. So what's your view on this? What is it? So why is it so important?
Well, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So in all, many of our veterans are homeless partially because of the issues with family or their inability to share their struggles with them. Whatever goes on in war, or whether they actually went in country or not, or whether they stayed at home, all of our men and women in uniform have said that they're willing to die for people they don't know who live in this country. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's very difficult for them to reconnect with family.
Yes. Yeah, and so what do you think one of the things when we say family, because, in the military, if you wore a uniform, you are my family. That's the thing. We are all family, right? Irrespective of your branch, whether you are Army, whether you're a Marine, whether you're Navy or Air Force or even Coast Guard, right? We are family. We support each other, and we actually extend that at home with our police officers and making sure that our emergency response workers. We have a feel for them because they are dedicating their lives to this. Now, everyone in the country should feel some kind of relationship to our veterans as family members, because they are the people that are supporting you every day of your life. And they're making it so that you can wake up in the morning and have a great time. So those the families, what do family members of veterans who are homeless need to know? What is it that they need to understand, why it's so important that they play a pivotal role in the lives of the veterans, and that even us, if it's not your direct family member, they are kin to you.
Damon, it means so much. What you're saying, because
people
willing to die for people we don't even know.
Right. Yes.
And it happens, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ralph, you were about to say, yeah, that's right.
What I'm going to say is that this time of the year is very special. during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. This is a time when, before you went in the military, families gathered around the kitchen table or the dining room table and had feasts, and kids opened presents. And it was all about love and coming together. So we can't replace, our comrades can't replace our immediate family members. And, and even though you're right, we are family while we're in the military together. But what happens after the war? What happens when we want to go back to the days when we had those great times sitting around the kitchen table? Well, guess what happens? Drugs and alcohol happen. Homelessness happens. Issues that don't confront us on the battlefield or in the job that we did wearing a uniform happen. So now we want to try to reconnect them. And Kathryn is going to talk to us about a great program that the VA has put together to actually make that happen.
Okay, Kathryn, tell us about it.
Well, so I think Mr. Cooper is absolutely right? Families can bring joy, families can bring hope, families can bring all kinds of things. And I think the one thing that I hope that, folks who maybe have a family member who's experiencing homelessness might walk away from this conversation with is the idea that there's a lot that you can bring to the table if you're open to it. And one of the really interesting resources that VA relies upon pretty heavily to help veterans move on from homelessness into housing is a program called Supportive Services for Veterans and Families. And it's a really great program because not only can veterans get help, but their family members can too. So it's a little bit different than some of the traditional programs that VA runs. But the program is really flexible. So it does all kinds of things from, paying for security deposits and offering subsidies to folks who are really low income and who need longer term support. But the thing that we wanted to talk about today was the way that the program can be utilized to help connect veterans to their families. And so they've got a really interesting component of the program where veterans who maybe are in one part of the country but have a family member in another part of the country can actually have their travel paid to reunite with their family, get connected to a case manager in their new location, and continue to get support from the program in a really meaningful way. There also are ways where the SSVF program can do a lot to support family members who would be able to take a veteran experiencing homelessness on, but for the cost of it, right? So you think about having somebody extra in your house, and that may mean more groceries, more utilities, different things like that. But this program is actually able to support some of those costs and then help the veterans still continue to move on into permanent housing after they're staying with you. And so we just wanted to raise that as a really unique thing that, veterans have access to, and something that we think your listeners ought to be aware of.
How do they access that program, or what's the way that people can find out more about that? Is there a site they can go to or a phone number? Yeah,
so actually if you look up, and I don't have the precise site, so what I'm going to say, and you're going to be unhappy with this, is if you Google SSVF grantee list, you get a list of all of the grantees across the country that are able to help with this kind of assistance. And you can sort of look by state and county to see who's nearest to your location or the veterans.
Oh, say that again. What site is that?
So it's if you just search for SSVF grantee list, so SSVF, and then the grantee list, a whole list of grantees from across the country comes up. And that's how we actually find folks for the hotline as well, is by looking at the SSVF grantee list.
Okay, really? Okay, that sounds good. So as we're talking about this, the reunification with families, one of the things that people may not realize also is that we have entire veteran families on the street that are homeless, right? Because they have children, they have a spouse, and we're seeing extended generations of families on the street right now. Especially with the things that are going on. And we had veterans also. We didn't, we don't even think about it, but we had homeless veterans in the states where we had 125 miles of earth being torn up by tornadoes, throughout Kentucky and about 4 states. And where are they? Who's taking care of them? How are they being helped? And they're in the middle of a devastation. So we have a lot to do to make sure that our veterans and their families are taken care of. What kinds of, because I love this idea that it's actually directed not just towards the individual, but the entire family, because it's a family unit that's being affected by this service, especially if they've been injured or wounded and they lost an arm or a leg or PTSD or something else going on that they have to deal with. And many times that can drive you, as Ralph was saying, to the table with alcohol and drugs just to try to cope and contend with these things. But what do veterans need to know right now, especially in this time of COVID? What kinds of resources are available at the VA for them to make sure that they're protecting and taking care of themselves and their families?
Well, one of the things that you're pointing out here is that in order for anybody to get back together, whether it's through a counseling effort or through reunification with family, this is a holistic approach. The veteran by himself may be homeless. However, if he's going to reunify with his loved one, or if he's going to ever have a chance to build his independence, he's going to require a lot of help from the family. And the family has to understand that what this veteran is going through, because a lot of times they burn their bridges. If it's drug and alcohol, you know yourself that a lot of times the drug is in charge, not you. And so you do things to the family with the family. One of the veterans described it as his battle with drugs and alcohol and suicidal thoughts after divorce. And that's another thing too, is suicide. We this is the time of the year when that heart is heavy, and when you want to be back with your family, but you've done some of those burning bridges, and you feel isolated and alone. And so we need to also be aware of the signs so that we can connect this veteran up with suicide prevention hotline that the VA has, or if you yourself see the veteran know and understand that you can ask them, you having any thoughts about harming yourself, and we can then prevent a lot of what's going on. As you all know, suicide rate among veterans is higher than it's ever been in our nation's history.
Yeah.
One of the things that the Colonel mentioned that I wanted to talk about was this thing that we have now, COVID-19, which is really, we had mentioned it before we started the show.
Yeah.
A little bit. What is going on with that?
Yeah, because they do have testing at the VA, and they have the vaccinations as well. So our homeless veterans need to get vaccinated. Yeah. Fully vaccinated and get that booster dose. To protect them, because they're out and they're running across people and they don't know who's carrying what, right? Whether it's the Omicron or the Delta. I mean, if you're completely unvaccinated, they can be just as deadly to you. And just as harmful, and end up hospitalizing you, and your family members as well. So, what would be your advice? Because there are threats that people are facing, while being homeless right now. It's, of course, the economic threat, the issue about proper nutrition and making sure that you have access to facilities like taking a shower, or those kinds of things that we take for granted, right? If you're living inside of a home, we just take everything for granted until you're out in the street and you're homeless. That you don't know what that means, really, as an individual. But what are the things like let's say the top 5 things you would advise us to do in order to help veterans and to be aware of that they're confronting right now. One is, of course, the COVID issue, right, and making sure that they have the right kinds of resources to protect themselves, masks and those kinds of things, and whatever they need, the vaccinations, but trying to help them get there. But what are the things that you think people need to know? Because what I'm worried about is that because of the COVID-19, people are so afraid of approaching other people. And, you know, they always say social distancing, and I say that I hate that term, social distancing. It should be physical distancing. We're talking about 6 to 8 feet. We're not talking about social isolation or disconnection or abandonment, right? So what should we be doing to help our homeless veterans right now? Because I think it's our responsibility too.
Well, you know, I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
As long as you're giving us good information.
We got like 500 units of housing where we house previously homeless veterans.
Right.
And we have a deal with both the VA and a private medical provider where anybody, whether it's a family member or whether it's a veteran or whether you're a non-veteran and you reside there, or staff, you can get the COVID testing, you can get the 2 vaccines that you need, and you can get the booster. And it's all free of charge. And we have been very fortunate. We have had no deaths out of our entire population due to COVID. And it's only because when we recognize that if someone does test positive, we go into immediate isolation process, and whether it's staff or residents. And so far, it's worked.
Oh, fantastic!
Great.
Yeah, yeah, because that's really important. You know, we have a tendency to look at those things, and you know, there's always a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of other stuff going on. But you know, this is a deadly virus. There's a solution. Get vaccinated. Get fully vaccinated, and protect yourself and those people you love. And you know, and be concerned about other people. And you know, it's not just an individual thing. It's also me as an individual. If I'm unvaccinated and I'm, you know, if I carry a virus, many of our veterans have other health conditions, chronic medical conditions, and especially if they're homeless, those things really impact them. Imagine, you know, being out in the cold and breathing in all that cold air, and then think about what happens if you have asthma. What happens if you have congestive heart failure on top of that, and you don't have access to your medications or have, you know, a way of getting them, you know, that you're isolated and you're cut off from that, or you have mental health issues that are compounding the whole thing. So if you walk up to, you know, a homeless veteran and you just don't care about getting vaccinated, taking care of yourself, you can give them the virus and you can get them very, very sick. So, you know, think about what you're doing as an individual. We have a social responsibility to everyone around us. And I'm looking for ways that I can, you know, assist people who are homeless veterans right now. You know, there's a normal thing I do. It's like you walk and you see a veteran, you give them $5, or you give them $10 or $20, or you know, you sit down and talk to them, and you know, because I think that sometimes is better than the money you give. You know, they feel that they are heard and respected and have a human connection. But there's a need for us to do more. And what you know, okay, you know, since we're going to Christmas time, I'm going to go to each one of you, and Ralph. And then, you know, I'm going to, you know, Kathryn, what I want you to do is I want you to give me your wish list, Kathryn, for the 2022 year time frame coming up. We have New Year's and we have Christmas coming up. What is your wish list for veterans who are homeless right now for this year coming? What should we be doing? These legislators need to get off of their, I'm not going to say the word because it's a holiday, but they need to get off of some parts of the body, anatomy, and do something about this. But what's your wish list for this year coming up?
Well, so I've got a couple of things. I think the first one is at the federal level. There's a really great bill that is moving. I think it's going to be in a New Year's package. And one of the important things that it does is extends a lot of the pandemic flexibilities for organizations that are serving homeless veterans. So it would make changes like allowing VA to spend money on things outside of the traditional things that they spend on, right? So letting them, provide veterans with food and different things to provide comfort, phones, ways to communicate, and transportation, and things like that. It's also got a lot of really great pilot programs. So I think the first thing I'd say is pay attention to that and make sure that you tell your member of Congress to support it. I think the second thing that I would add is that there's a lot that happens at the state and local level that impacts our ability to end homelessness, right? When you think about the way that tax credit funding is allocated in communities, the ways that zoning laws affect how much and what kinds of affordable housing we're able to build, even the ways that sometimes our neighbors get in the way of building affordable housing when they talk about, oh, I don't want those people over there to come and live in my nice, rich, fancy neighborhood. And so I do think that there's a lot that people can do, just everyday people, right, to get involved in making sure that, state and local funding is really spent to support those who are most in need and develop affordable housing, or even, in going to community and town meetings and saying, yeah, we need more affordable housing. It's not affordable for me, and it should be affordable for me and them and everyone in our community. We shouldn't have this problem where people are outside. We need to do something about that, and we need to hold everyone at all levels of government accountable to changing and doing better.
Is that like a House bill that you're referring to?
So the underlying bill is S-2172, and it was actually introduced as something like 9 companion bills in the House, but it's going in one package for the end of the year, and I'm not sure what the bill number is for the end of the year package because it's still kind of being drafted and put together.
Yes.
So I don't think it'll continue to be S-2172, but I think, listeners can tell their member of Congress to support the provisions in S-2172, and hopefully that'll mean something to them, and they'll finish with pushing that bill forward at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So what is your website? And is there something that we can sign on to? Because I always see these things coming through the email, that say, please, sign on to our push or our bill. Is there something we can sign on to, or is there something that you're, sort of putting together for that?
Now that you're saying that, we certainly could do something like that and put that out when we send over our op-ed on Tuesday. But the website that you can go to is www.nchv.org. And you can find out more on the bill and everything else that's happening in the world of veteran homelessness.
Give us that again, please.
Sure. It's www.nchv.org.
National Coalition of Homeless Veterans, NCHV. Yeah. So what is your wish list, Ralph? It looks like Ralph has been thinking. So he's probably going to come up with something that is going to be incredible. He probably has his stocking open over there already.
Well, you know what? The major, biggest wish for Christmas is to put me and my operations and all homeless veteran operations out of business. I don't want to see any more homeless veterans in the richest country in the world. But since that's not going to happen maybe this Christmas, the next best thing is to make sure we have low income tax credits to build affordable housing. You can get with your congressional people and make sure they support that type of legislation. Affordable housing, especially in the north, like Chicago and New York and Washington, D.C., is really important because in the winters, the rough winters, because in Houston and California, the veterans can kind of survive on the outside during the cold, but you can't where there's snow, below zero weather, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so we need that kind of support.
Okay, we're running out of time, so I want you to go to www.nchv.org. Make sure that you get everything that you need. Make sure you speak to your congressional members, local officials. They need to be, if I give you my vote, you need to be doing the things I'm voting for you for. And one of them is taking care of veterans. making sure that you're taking care of our homeless veterans. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Ralph Cooper. Thank you, Kathryn Monet. Thank you for your service to this country every day by what you're doing. You're fulfilling what these congressional members and everyone else should be doing. Yeah, so we should be getting together and making sure that this happens. So any last 1 second comment? I'm going to give it back to you. Well, we have 1 minute to go.
Ladies first.
Kathryn?
Ladies first. I mean, I think the one thing that I hope people walk away from this with is that there are many things that we can do to support those of us or the people that are in our immediate circles, like our family members and our friends. And we all need to be worried about doing that, whether it's, taking them in for the holidays, destigmatizing accessing assistance, or helping to create a better system of care for everyone in our communities.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we ran out of time, so I'm going to have you back on, and God bless you both, and happy holidays to all the veterans you helped to serve, and our homeless veterans are better off because of two outstanding people like you. So we're going to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Stay with us.